The Psycho Rangers are known to be some of the most iconic villains in Power Rangers history, and some of you may not know that there was actually a sixth Psycho Ranger, one more evil and one more stronger than the rest, and this guy was lost to time, space and history that is until now. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Omaranger 004, where I explain everything in the Power Rangers universe, Marvel, DC and more comics. In today's episode we're talking about the Psycho Green Ranger, the original and lost sixth Ranger of the Psycho Rangers. Psycho Green is a character exclusive to the Power Rangers comics, especially issues of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger comic book series and the graphic novel The Psychopath. He had no in-space equivalent or Super Sentai equivalent, and also there was no Green in-space Ranger either. If you don't know how the Psycho Rangers worked, their minds were basically connected to each one of the in-space Rangers, copying their moves and attacks. Would there be no Green in-space Ranger? Psycho Green was on his own with his sick and insane mind, and he really is a psychopath. Let's talk about Psycho Green's origin, with his original name being Trek. Trek is from the planet Zebria, which is the same planet as Trip the Time Force Green Ranger. He was a part of the Supersonic Rangers team, but he wouldn't really get along with the team much, especially Ace, the team's Red Ranger, as they would have a lot of arguments. With that in mind, Dark Spectre would make contact with Trek, filling his head with the idea of bad thoughts, making him think that his team thought that he was worthless and that they never considered him one of their own. In all these dark thoughts that Dark Spectre put in Trek's head basically put him under his control, following every single one of Dark Spectre's commands. Star of the team's Pink Ranger would notice the change in Trek as she grew concerned over inability to read Trek's thoughts. On their last mission, Trek tried to warn Star against continuing with the mission, but she went in with the rest of the Supersonic Rangers into a building that would soon explode, and you know who survived? Trek. Basically he would end up finding Ace, the team's Red Ranger, in a pile of rubble, to then confess to Ace himself that he was the one that organized his entire attack against the Supersonic Rangers. That was before shooting Ace in the head, and Trek at this point was far too gone. He was a lost soul, right? So he left the planet in furious to go to Dark Spectre and tell them about what happened. Dark Spectre would then use his dark powers to change Trek's supersonic morpher into a new evil morpher, along with a new Ranger form, being the first ever Psycho Ranger. That being Psycho Green, Dark Spectre's right-hand man. And throughout the years after that we would see Trek go on many different missions under Dark Spectre, including one in the 1860s where he was actually sent to the moon to release Rita Repulsa, the main villain of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, about 130 or so years before she actually did ultimately. But what ultimately stopped Trek was the works of Zordon and Alpha 5, who actually set up defense mechanisms on the planet. They actually had defense blasters literally shooting down Psycho Green ships. So now stuck on the moon, Psycho Green ultimately went into hibernation. However, 100 years later, in 1969, the events of the moon landing awoken Psycho Green once again, and he would go on to continue this mission to release Rita Repulsa from her dumpster. However, there were no defense blasters in 1969. We had something better, a team of Power Rangers, that being the first ever team of Mighty Morphing Power Rangers, also known as the 1969 Rangers. Nikolai and Jamie, the Blue and Black Rangers respectively, would engage in battle with Psycho Green, with Trek managing to crush Jamie to death with a boulder as Grace Torona and Daniel arrived. Psycho Green battled them too, killing Daniel by destroying his visor and exposing him to the vacuum of space. He ultimately later find the dumpster that he was supposed to release Rita out of, but ultimately he got taken down as he got stopped by the Rangers' power blasters, but it didn't destroy him, though it merely turned on his monster form, which is a green monster giant being. Really scary stuff. After chasing the trio of Rangers into Rita's palace, he would finally be incapacitated by Nikolai, who sacrificed himself to cause An explosion inside of Psycho Green. The only thing we would see left of Psycho Green was the dagger that was taken by Grace the Red Ranger. This is not the end of Trek's adventures yet, guys, because Trek was alive just buried deep inside the moon. There's a little bit of the combination of Dark Specter's dark energy and Trek's connection to the morphing grid which kept him alive for many years. He even managed to dodge the Z-wave, which was the energy wave that Zordon emitted when he died, destroying all villains excluding Trek. Trek would escape and manage to find the data cards of the 5 Psycho Rangers that came after him. Basically, he reprogrammed the whole team, resurrecting them into becoming more loyal to each other and being loyal to anybody who is the child of Dark Specter. Trek actually considered himself being brothers to Astronema in a way, as they were both born out of Dark Specter's evil powers, but the Psycho Rangers are actually calling Astronema like mommy, mother, mommy sorry, and Trek learned that Dark Specter was destroyed and wanted to rebuild his army once again after Countdown to Destruction. He even had Karone, who was once Astronema, reprogrammed into becoming like another like Astronema mixed with Karone type thing to become evil basically. However, that was a bad idea on Trek's part, to be honest, because Trek would start to lose control of his own Psycho Rangers, with them connecting more to Karone than him. And the only Psycho Ranger that was ultimately on Trek's side was the Yellow Psycho Ranger. Well, for Trek, as Trek ended up in jail, in prison, not destroyed, just in prison, and we can assume that Trek is still there to this day actually, because we never saw him after that. Who knows if he escaped and defeated any other Power Rangers? We don't know that, but for now that is Psycho Green explained. What do you guys think of Trek's origins and possible future? Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more videos about your favorite comics are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.